Creates Arts Podcast. Commentary, WabiSabi. Hello friends, this is Timothy Kimo Bryan, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I use my 30 plus years of experience in the arts and education worlds to help you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. So this year, I'm doing a special thing every week, or just about every week, and it's called, what is it called? It's called Kickstart Creativity. I'm sorry, having one of those, MS moments, old man moments. But anyways, Kickstart Creativity is out there by Bonnie Smith Whitehouse, and it's 50 prompted cards to spark your imagination and your inspiration. And there's 3 types of cards, and I am actually finishing out the intention cards today. And today's word is WabiSabi. And WabiSabi finds beauty in imperfection and accepts the natural cycle of growth and decay. So that's our word for the week, for this week. And further on, for centuries, the Japanese have found inspiration in the process rather than the culmination of all that we observe in nature. Wabi is a Japanese philosophy that values the elegance of rustic simplicity. Sabi suggests growing peacefully, resigned to the deterioration that accompanies aging, or what some translate as the bloom of time. So together, the philosophy of WabiSabi liberates perfectionists with 3 lessons. Nothing lasts, nothing is finished, nothing is perfect. And let's take a quick look at what Merriam-Webster says. So WabiSabi is the acceptance of transience and imperfection. The aesthetic is sometimes described as appreciating beauty that is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete in nature. It is prevalent in many forms of Japanese art. Imperfection. It's funny that this one popped up because I was doing a little cleaning in my man cave office studio / where I live a good third of my life, and where I have been living for the past since the pandemic started, pretty much. And at one point, I was working on a sculpture project. And what I did is I took the deadbolt and the door handle that had failed. We had to get it replaced for our front door. And I made a little sculpture out of it. I just kind of tore the thing apart and then put it back together in a different way. And it kind of looked like a cannon. I don't know if that's a subliminal thing. But I took something that was broken and made it into something else. And I felt really proud of myself because I was like, hey, I've never really done, a mechanical sculpture before. And I did that, and it was a great feeling that I took something that normally would have been headed for the trash, and I made a piece of art out of it. There's another 2 pieces that I recently did. Well, not recently, but one is recent, one isn't recent. So I had a picture of my wife and I in Paris at the kissing wall, or the I love you wall. I'm sorry. And I took, I had somebody take a picture of us kissing there, because that's what you do when you're in Paris. Well, for a anniversary gift, I went ahead and took a class in oil painting. And I did my first real, oil painting. Really thought out oil painting, and that was a great class. And when I look at that painting, it's very basic. It's very, I don't want to say childlike, but it's immature. Let's do that. It's a very immature painting. And then years later, last couple of years, I've been doing these paint by numbers. Now, some people are going to go, well, that's cheating. Well, maybe a little bit. But I really enjoyed what came out of it, and the look on my wife's face, and when I did other pictures, the faces of my kids and my nephew. And one of my daughters remarked, and she said, "Hey, Papa, I mean, I can see a bunch of white spots in there where you didn't get to paint. And not everything is, you didn't paint necessarily within all the lines. But it's perfect just the way it is, so don't change any of it." And that really, I am not, I paint like a 4-year-old on crack, as I joke with all of you about that. But that was something that really, kind of drove the point home to me. And I've been thinking about it all week, that, WabiSabi doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to last forever, doesn't have to even be complete. I have a couple of novels that I have been working on in the past 2 years. They're incomplete novels right now. They'll eventually get done. And I am planning a third novel that I'll need to get done. But they need to get done in their time. And one of those things that I need to do is just to kind of sit and listen to my inner self and go with it and see, getting back into those novels and getting them done and getting them out there and getting them in front of people's eyes. I mean, they're both kind of in front of people's eyes anyways. They're part of the National Novel Writing Month that you can find on my website under projects. But they're not done yet, and they are far from perfect, but they're an attempt. And that's, one thing that, I'm trying to relay to you is that inner critic can stop a lot of things. So to battle that inner critic, look at WabiSabi and, just be at one with it, be at peace with it. In the show notes, I put a link to, obviously, the Kickstart creativity site, because, I think we all should jump in on that and take a look at these, because I've gotten a lot of value out of it. But I also put a link in there titled Japan Objects. It's an article on WabiSabi, and it really goes into the whole, what WabiSabi is, and gives you some great examples and definitions. So definitely check out that link. It's in the show notes. So now on to our challenge. First challenge is, as you design something, consider how you can take your cues from nature. So most of my designing is, doing podcasts, and I don't know of a way that nature makes a podcast per se, but maybe introducing more natural sounds or making myself sound more natural. So I won't be putting this through Descript to get rid of all the ums and the uhs, mainly because let me tell you this. So recently, 2 podcasts popped up in my player, and they were talking about using the word and filler words, and it was from a linguist, people that specialize in language and speech and all that, and they said, you should probably leave it in because it lets people know that you are thinking, that there is something going on there, there's a process going on there, and, we all do it. So maybe it's not too bad to have too many ums and uhs. Now, the thing that I really hate is duh, really stupid sounds. But, and there's another count all the ums that you hear in this episode and email me and let me know how many I did. But no, seriously. I am going to try to be a little less perfect with my podcasts. Now, I'm going to try to get the best audio quality that I can get. But if it doesn't come out absolutely perfect, I'm not going to cry about it. It's not like I am doing brain surgery here. I'm talking to you about art topics. This year I'm talking to you about kickstarting your creativity and using these cards. So I think that's what I'm going to, tap my foot into and try to dial back a little bit of my, my inner critic on that and see if I can't, practice WabiSabi a little bit more. The next challenge is how might you and your collaborators embrace WabiSabi, thus opening up space for imperfection. Well, I'm going to say to you right now that imperfection is just fine, because you can find a lot of nuances, new things in imperfection. One of the stories I always point back to is when I was doing lighting design in college. We had a happy accident with lighting a set, and the play was set in 2 different time periods, 30 years apart. And the way I lit it, I didn't get a chance to see how it would look with the different paints and whatnot. But so for the first half of the show, it's brightly lit, like sun, a really sunny day. The second half of the show is really dark. So that's lit a certain way. And we didn't really know until we hit tech rehearsal what that change really looked like. And it was magnificent. So that was a mistake that turned out to be really good. That was an imperfection that turned out very well. I've had many imperfections that haven't turned out well. Earlier, when I was talking about the sculpture that I did from the deadbolt and the door handle, that fell apart and that's in pieces right now. So, and I couldn't get it to stay together with super glue. So that right now is in pieces, but you know what? At some point, I'll pick it up and make it stick together a lot better. All right, so the third challenge is repair something broken. Perhaps you'll find you'll love it more than ever. Be inspired by Kintsugi, Kintsugi, a WabiSabi practice of mending a cracked piece of pottery with gold, reminding us that damage can become a beautiful part of our history. So I had been buying some MIDI controllers, and I couldn't get them to work with my DAW. And I had tried different DAWs, and I just couldn't get it working. And then one day I just let it go. And I said, I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to make it work. I'm going to will it to work. And sure enough, I got it to work. And it was amazing. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's a good $100 well spent on the MIDI controllers that I purchased that I didn't get a chance to use, that unfortunately are gaining a little bit of dust right now that I do need to sit down and take some time and do. I do electronic music. The music that you heard at the intro and the outro, that's all me. And most of the time all the time I do all the intro and outro music for the podcast that I work on. So are they perfect? No, but it's very distinctive. When you hear the intro and outro music, what the show is. I know you've been a listener for a long time, so you know what it is. And it's kind of my thumbprint. It's kind of my trademark. So I'd like to know how you practice WabiSabi in your practice, or even if you practice it at all, or maybe you just do it and you haven't thought about it and now you're like, oh, now I have a name for this. So yeah, let me know what you're doing, how you're practicing it. I would love to talk with you about it. And just to let you know, I'm recording this here in May of 2023. In a few weeks, I'm going to be putting out a interview that I just recently did. So that'll happen towards the end of May 2023. Really proud of that interview. Is it a perfect interview? No, but I got to meet a really wonderful person, and I got a new book for my girls as soon as the book comes out. So stay tuned for that interview. I think you're really going to like it. Well, that was today's card. I appreciate you taking a listen to this podcast, and I really appreciate the time that you put into it. And I hope you appreciate the time that I put into it. I do want to ask you a slight favor. If you got any benefit out of this, I'd ask you to go ahead and share it with a friend. Whatever app you're using, if you're on my website, go ahead and give them the website. If you're, using an app, share it through your app. There's lots of different ways, lots of different apps out there. So I'm not going to go through them all. But yeah, go ahead and share it with a friend. I don't mind. Don't mind at all. The other thing I'd like to ask of you is
that if you have something going on in your neck of the woods, or if you have, a piece of art that you're working on that I can help you out with, or if you want to get your work out there to other people, I'd be happy to interview you on this show. You can email me, timothy@createartpodcast.com. And I'd be happy to get back with you and talk about it and see what we can do about that. The last thing I'm going to ask of you, and I know I'm asking a ton, and I apologize for that, but could you go ahead and email me and let me know what would make this a 5-star podcast in your eyes? I'd like to know about that. You can, a lot of the apps out there, you can comment right there on the app and leave your review or all that. And by all means, go ahead and do that. Even if it's not a 5-star, if it's a 4-star, if it's a 1-star, go ahead and do that. But what I would ask you to do, please, is to go ahead and email me. Same email address, timothy@createartpodcast.com. And let me know what's going to make this a 5-star podcast for you. Now I'm going to release you to the rest of your day. I hope this was enjoyable for you. I know it was enjoyable for me. So go out there. Tame that inner critic. Create more than you consume. And go out there and make some art for somebody you love, yourself. I'll talk to you next time.